Welcome to the Honest Designer Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom Ross and I'm the founder at designcuts.com, and this week I'm joined by my fellow Brit and hand lettering expert Ian Barnard, American retro design expert Dustin Lee, and the incredibly talented South African illustrator Lisa Glans. This week we are super excited to welcome back the fantastic Teela Cunningham from Every Tuesday. Teela, I don't even know where to start, does so much as a creative entrepreneur, but we are thrilled this week because she's going to be sharing her strategies on how to launch and sell courses as a creative. So if you have that little spark inside where you feel like you want to teach the world something, Teela is highly experienced at this, highly successful, and very, very generous, sharing all of her best tips. I think this is going to be an action-packed masterclass of an episode. So without further ado, let's get into the show. Welcome back, Teela.
Yay. Thanks. Hey, excited to be here.
Welcome.
I'm excited to have you. I guess, do you want to give a little bit of background before we jump into the nuts and bolts, like how courses have helped you? I believe they're your main thing, right? You do all kinds of stuff business-wise.
They are. Online courses account for about 80% of our revenue, 15% for our digital products, and 5% ads. So online courses are major for our small business.
Incredible. And how many years have you been doing them now? Because
the very first one was on Skillshare in 2015. And then in October 2016, I decided to try my hand at self-hosted courses using Teachable. And I've been mostly focused on self-hosted courses from here on out. I will release a light version or a smaller version of the same course on Skillshare just to expose new audience to myself and my teachings. But then the deep dive always happens on my own website.
Amazing. And is there a reason for that? Because I think an awful lot of aspiring course creators and teachers, they kind of default to Skillshare. And they're a great platform. Obviously, you got your start there, but you've moved away. You've taken control of it a bit more.
Yeah, I think it's probably important to talk about Skillshare's model first, and then I can explain. It'll make more sense for why I made that transition. So with Skillshare, lots of people teach on Skillshare. It's open to everybody. And the way that they pay out is you get around, last I knew, it was between 5 and 10 cents a minute watched for their premium users. And because anyone can teach online, you have all these people with content, and once their content goes up, it's up at the top for all of the search results, but by the next week, you're already replaced with new courses because there's so many people submitting new courses. And you have really good quality courses on there, and then you have poorer quality courses, and you're kind of stuck in the middle, and you're trying to get attention to your work. And you hope that you stand out. And if you do stand out, you only stand out for a little bit of time. So then you have to release another course, so then you can stand out again. And it's this endless cycle of having to create course after course after course. Mm-hmm. And most courses, people on Skillshare tend to like bite-sized content that's really actionable right away. So most courses are an hour or less on there. Anything more than that, you kind of lose people. And even if you put in that extra effort, there's no guarantee that people are going to watch it all the way through because they're paying like $10 a month to access it. They don't feel as invested when someone buys a premium price course. They're more invested to watch the entire thing because they've spent a lot of money on it. They care a lot about, watching all the minutes of the course instead of just dropping off where they find what they need and then they're out. So
yeah, I mean, it's probably a completely different caliber of customer.
Yes.
Not to say one's better or worse, but in terms of like business financial terms,
right.
If you're paying $10 and you get access to billions of courses, like you say, you're not going to have a high degree of loyalty, probably a high lifetime value to the course owner.
Can I share a quick story related to someone that did stuff on Skillshare that might add some context or additional context? Because the person I'm thinking of had said the same thing as you, Teela. They'd said 5 cents a minute, but I think they were guessing. They were kind of making their best guess. Too. And anyways, I know they were on when it first started and they were making like $20,000 a month when it first started. This is when Skillshare first started. And then it dropped down. And then Skillshare said, well, we're going to stop charging for individual courses and we're going to do subscription. And this is going to be better for everybody. And now it's down to the point where no matter, like you said, no matter how much content they release, unless they consistent release content, you're basically punished because your content drops. So now that person, I think, had made under 1,000. And we're talking about someone with a significant following, probably not as big as yours, Teela, but I mean, pretty big. So they really get you on a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
I'm happy to share my finances of my Skillshare if that's helpful.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I've only got one course on there.
Is it A2P after last episode?
Yeah.
Does it cover your, yeah.
So I have 3,000. Does it matter? The amount of students not matter? It's just
It matters the number of premium students that have watched it because
I don't know who
you're
that.
paid based on that.
So my course is only half an hour long, and it's been watched 73,760 minutes. And I currently have, like, total earned is $6,714. But you take off that 2,590 of just people. Because I get a commission, because I'm now a course creator, I get $10 per person who signs up via my link. And so I've only earned through the course 4,124, because 2,500 of that is people signing up.
Referral.
Yeah, so
referrals.
You're looking at about $1.20 per student who takes your course.
Yeah, it seems that way, yeah.
Which doesn't sound huge.
Which isn't great.
No, like I was going to say, I don't know how much Teela's courses cost, but even if it costs $50 or $100, it's 50 to 100x.
What's an average course value, Teela?
Most of my courses these days are around $97, and then my most premium course is $397.
Have you considered charging $1.20?
No, I have not.
Okay.
Only on the light version that I put on Skillshare, I guess, is what I'm selling for $1.20.
I think for me, the reason I went to Skillshare first before self-hosting, and I think I'm going to tell, is that I needed to get one out.
Yeah.
Like get a course out there.
Yeah.
Under your belt, yeah.
Yeah, and I think because of Skillshare, there's a range of different, like you say, they're wanting bite-sized stuff. I needed to get that out just so it gave me the experience of doing it from start to finish. But seeing how much you don't really earn, there's still a chunk of money, but it's not like if I had a course that cost $97 and I got 100 students, that's earned me like nearly 10 grand. That's much more than what I'm earning on there for 3,500 students. So
okay, but this is the part that I want to kind of get into, if you don't mind, is how do you compare the value you're offering on a Skillshare? Because I know you said they're kind of like just a simplified version or an intro version of your full courses.
Mm-hmm.
How do you compare the value you're offering on the Skillshare versus the $97 course? Because that's the part where I get confused. Like, how much value should I put into, the fuller course versus a Skillshare course?
Right. So I record the whole deep dive course first, and I actually just take, because most of my courses are project-based, I've noticed that students are really receptive to project-based courses. Yeah. So that's basically all I do now. So I record the entire deep dive version, and then I just take part of that deep dive. So like the beginning intro projects, the really basic beginner ones, just to get you comfortable and get you started before I get into the really fun, really cool stuff. Okay. So that's the part that I put on Skillshare. So I just chop it, and I'm using stuff I've already recorded, and then I just record a new intro and outro. And then I usually offer a discount code to people that watch on Skillshare that if you go over and watch the full class, since you watched on Skillshare, I'll offer you like $10 off the full course. Here's a code that you can use.
Do you wrap that into the actual videos on Skillshare? Yeah. So, because I think they get a little bit touchy about that stuff, don't they?
Yeah, they're not. I got an email once about that I was promoting. I mentioned my font making course, and it was relevant, but they told me that I can't talk about courses that are offered anywhere else. So I had to be really careful moving forward about that.
I think that this happens a lot of places, whether it be on marketplaces or content creation subscription services or Medium. I was experimenting with Medium, and some people make a lot of money writing on Medium, but they seem to experience the same problem of they get in this cycle of you have to keep creating content. Mm-hmm. Even though you have more content, you would think you would inversely create more income, but you don't.
Right.
Which is exactly what you'd want if you owned a company like that, because you don't want people to retire. You want them to keep churning out content for you. I think a lot of people get on these sites and then they get frustrated trying to get traction. And even when they do, they end up getting into this hamster wheel. So I'm curious what your thoughts are. Do you feel, and you don't have to use Skillshare specifically if you feel uncomfortable, but do you feel that that business model is reasonable? Like, is your opinion more like, yeah, they built the platform, so they deserve to take a gigantic lion's share and put the game into their favor in a dramatic, gargantuan way?
Or not that you're preloading her answer here.
Well, no, I'm just like trying to create a spectrum here. Like, so that would be like 100% like anti this kind of thing. And then on the other side of the spectrum be like, no, this is totally like makes sense. Why wouldn't you do that if you were the owner of a business? Like, where do you stand on that?
I get why they're doing it that way. They're a business that needs to make money. I don't even know if I can say this because I sat in on their yearly recap and they went through some of their financials, and the amount that they spent on advertising, just like paying influencers to talk about Skillshare, was shocking compared to how much they paid out to creators. And I didn't realize there was such a gap there. But I mean, I didn't leave Skillshare, but I am very much self-hosting now. And that is my main goal with our business, is all self-hosted, just because I saw that on Skillshare, if I'm spending all this time, I've got good recording equipment, I spent quality time editing all of my videos, like hours upon hours, and I put that up, and then it only lasts for like a week up towards the top content. And then I'm mixed in with all these other people that are just putting subpar or whatever types of work. I felt like I deserve more than 5 to 10 cents a minute. Like, my stuff's more premium than that. And by going self-hosted, that allows me to put whatever price tag I want on my own content. So I feel it's much more fair. So that was a huge reason why I went over to self-hosted, because I saw that this wasn't sustainable for me mentally to keep in that hamster wheel. And I wanted to keep producing really good content and allow my users to deep dive into content. And it wasn't the right place to put like a 3-hour class. And those are the types of classes I like creating, because I like sharing everything I know about a topic. And it wasn't right. And it was totally the right decision. I mean, in 1 year, I make more on self-hosted courses than I've made in the last 5 years combined on Skillshare. So the results of me going self-hosted, it's been a no-brainer. But the important thing is to know that Skillshare for me was a really good place to start, because I could experiment. I figured out how I wanted to teach. I learned a lot from that. And at the same time, I was creating weekly tutorials on YouTube. So I was exposing a lot of people to my teaching style and the way that I like to teach. And it allowed me, once I went self-hosted, I already had a following. I was already growing my email list at that point. So it was really important for me and our business to already have an audience before I threw out a premium course to them, because they already knew that you can rely on me for really good quality, free content. Imagine what you're going to get if you get my paid content. Like, I'm really packing it in for that. So my audience already knew and trusted me and was exposed to my teaching. So once I went self-hosted, I had a pretty smooth transition. But if you just start out self-hosted, you might have a rockier start. So Skillshare was really good for me as a learning experience and to make that transition.
If people don't have their own email list and own platforms, and they have zero reach, they probably will get a bit more traction on somewhere like Skillshare or a subscription. And I don't want this to turn into an hour on ragging on course subscription services, but I think it's an important point to kind of look at the distinction and why you picked self-hosted over that. I guess my final point on that would be I've seen it on many platforms and not just in the course industry, where when you get that market share and you get a load of users on your platform, quite often they will mix up how much people get paid, and they have all the leverage at that point. And it's really, really dangerous, especially by the sound of it. It's not like very clear. You kind of just get your monthly earnings, but you don't exactly know how you got them or where they came from or how what you get per minute. And so I've seen even when it's very firmly agreed, like you get X amount, people still change it on certain platforms, out the blue. And I think when it's this kind of vague, ephemeral thing where you don't actually know how the algorithm works out your earnings, then the tendency is, you know what, if we just tweak that much, people won't kick up enough fuss to leave, but we're going to make $1 billion extra this year. Yeah. Because it goes directly in our pocket. And I think it's a pretty hard thing to resist, I guess, when you're one of these huge companies, but it's so dangerous because, like Dustin's friend, 1 year you're earning this and the next year you're earning this. And I've seen this on, Etsy and Skillshare and all these different platforms. I think there's a lot to be said for being self-hosted.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't do it any other way now. Just having those experiences.
I think, Tom, you had mentioned it as like a hub. Sorry. Tom, you had mentioned a hub, and then you have other things coming off of it, but your hub has to be yourself. I think
that wasn't me. Yeah, that was either Ian or Lisa, but yeah, that hub with the spokes coming off of it. And it's like you can have that kind of thing where it supports, and that makes a ton of sense. It's like we are a spoke for you guys. Make some nice additional passive income working with design cuts. I'm really pleased about that. But there's no way I'm gonna like try and bully you and be like, you should give up your own platform. It's like far from it. I like helping you guys with that stuff. So, shall we jump into the dynamics of like, okay, people might be sold at this point. Like they want to teach, they want to go self-hosted.
One more question.
Oh, sorry, Lisa.
Self-hosting.
Take it away.
Which platform do you recommend
for self-hosted?
Yeah.
So I started with Teachable, and I'm still with Teachable.
Okay.
There's a bunch of new competitors in the space now.
Yeah.
Teachable was recommended by some people that I really admire in the marketing industry. And on the recommendation, I tried out Teachable. It had everything that I wanted. They've been amazing to me. Like I've even done some freelance work for them. They are such nice people. I can't say enough good things about them on top of having a great platform. So I have no intention of ever leaving because they've been amazing.
That's awesome.
Nice.
By the way, Teela, you know this. Obviously, I'm working on our top secret first course at Design Cards. We were looking at building out our entire like custom site and all these plugins and stuff. And it's got to a point I'm like, we're just going to put it on Teachable. Seems great.
It's crazy.
Like right out of the box.
Because if one thing breaks, everything breaks. With Teachable, everything is pretty reliable. And they've got so many developers on top of things if anything breaks along the way.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if you have a framework in mind for today to kind of walk us through this, but take it away.
Gosh. So I purchased a course on creating courses back when I first got started. So I think that's probably important to mention just because it helped me so much along my course creation journey. I bought it when I knew that I wanted to go self-hosted, and it's a pricier course, but it's been worth every single penny to me. I learned
how much
from
did
a guy
you spend
named,
on it? Just for context,
I spent $1,000 on it.
Boom.
It was $1,000.
There you go,
course.
people. For all the people who are not willing to invest in themselves, like that's a good investment.
And which one was it, if I may ask?
It's by a man named David Siteman Garland. His website is createawesomeonlinecourses.com. And he's got a really, really great Facebook group for everyone that's in the course. And it's been so inspiring to be a part of that group, to hear people's different launch success stories, and just learn from other people. There's so many niches out there that people are involved in, and to hear the amount of money that people are making from different niches and how being niche is so important, especially with courses. So that was really inspiring to me. And that kind of gave me the framework when I went self-hosted. So I have to give him props because he pretty much changed our lives because of everything that I learned within his course.
Wow.
So I will, before I even start creating a course, I will plan it all out. I'll create a rough outline, then I'll make all of my projects, and then I'll start recording. I'll edit it all. I'll upload it to Teachable.
Teela, can we rewind just for a second?
Sure.
So I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the listeners who are kind of flirting with the idea of doing a course. Before you plan out all the modules and set up filming, how do you know what you're going to teach? How do you know what people want to pay you for?
So I do weekly tutorials on YouTube. That's kind of where every Tuesday comes from. And I will get emails and I will get comments. Even on Instagram, I'll get DMs of requests for tutorials people want to see. So YouTube's been a really good testing ground for me to see what types of topics really appeal to my audience. And just getting different emails and requests, I start seeing a pattern. And once I start posting content on Instagram that I'm kind of playing around with, or on YouTube, and I see that people are really receptive to it, then I know, all right, this is solid. I can move forward with this.
And then do you jump into a full-on course, or do you kind of what Teela's talking about, everyone listening, is validation. So
yes,
you're using your audience's response and metrics like view counts and engagement, all that kind of stuff, to validate if this is something that people want. So do you do any further validation, or you go like, oh, those couple of videos did well, I got some nice DMs, I'm going to make a full-blown course?
I also, at the beginning of every year, I send a survey to my email list and I ask them what they most would like to see from me this year. So I put in all topics that I'm passionate about, that I know that I can deliver really well on. So I take that into account as well. And then I make a course. I think because I'm to the point where I have enough of a following with people that are into my style and how I teach, it's easier for me to move forward with a course because I've done it so many times where there are times where I'm just like, I know that people are going to enjoy this. I know that people are going to get value out of this. There are other times when I play around with a topic and I'm like, people are kind of into it, but I'm not sure I should spend all that time on it. Before I would do with Skillshare, it was so simple to just release a course because it would be an hour or less. But now with my more deep dive ones, I'm basically focusing on Procreate these days and font making. So I know that because my past Procreate courses have done well, I know that if I show something or teach something new in Procreate, I know I've already got an audience that's going to be very interested in that kind of content. So it's more reliable for me, but it's because of all the work that I've done in the past with free content. So I don't pre-sell courses. I know some people do that. I've never done that. And as far as validation, that's the extent that I usually go.
I love it. And I think something important to note is in terms of the funnel of your free content to your premium content, it needs to have a solid tie-in. This is something I've seen quite often where people try and sell a course, but actually they built an audience around something that's a little bit different, or it's kind of disconnected. And so in your case, like if you're putting out a course around font making and you're sharing a lot of free content around font making, there's a great tie-in. But if your free content was talking about like painting cars or something, then there might, not be the results you're looking for. So you do a great job. You put out a tremendous amount of free content that is basically like the light version of what you're putting in your courses, right?
Yep. Yeah. So there's that free content. There's the Skillshare light version too, if people want to test the waters before they make an investment in one of my courses. I also, last year was the first time I released a free course, which was called Procreate for Beginners. And I've had 10,000 people enroll in that course now. So I knew that, all right, I've got a lot of people now that are interested in my Procreate content. Yeah, a lot of them are probably just around just to watch a free course and pick up some tips. But I know that there's still a lot of people that want to learn more and deep dive into other niche topics within Procreate. Like last year, I created watercolor lettering in Procreate. The year before, I did 3D lettering in Procreate. So I'm doing all these different types of Procreate classes that are kind of extensions beyond just a beginner's course.
Can I ask you a question about, because when you're doing hand lettering, a pencil doesn't really change, a pen doesn't really change.
Right.
Procreate changes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So how do you deal with the, I've done a very light version of a 3D lettering on YouTube, and now one of the processes is now defunct because they've changed something in it and it doesn't work. And so how do you deal with that with a course? Do you have to redo the whole thing or just parts of it? Or
Yeah, I've been struggling with that a lot lately because Procreate 5 changed so many things. So I hate to say it, but I think that a lot of my year this year is going to be re-recording past content, just because I know I still have a lot of people really interested in it, especially my beginner's course. I know that I need to update that one.
But you know the silver lining? Like,
what's
as
that?
the silver lining is, as you update that, at least you can shout about the update, and so it brings awareness back to them.
Yeah, it's just so time consuming, and it's like I could be spending that time creating something new.
Yep.
So it's a huge internal struggle. I resisted doing Procreate content for a really long time for that very reason. And then I kept getting requests or questions about Procreate. And I was like, wow, people are really interested in what I have to say about Procreate. I feel like I have to do a course. And then my beginner's course did so well. So then I started making premium courses and those did really well. So now I'm like, well, they're still selling. And now I start feeling bad when people buy it because I'm like, well, they might be confused in this area. I need to go re-record it. It's tough.
So, for instance, when Procreate 5 came out, first, this is how in my head the scenario played out emotionally. Tell me if this mirrors for you. I think I just would love to know if someone else feels this way or many other people. But first, Fresco, came out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that created a little anxiety because I have products for Photoshop. And then I'm like, okay, they're trying to get into this. Is everyone going to go to Fresco? So I'm starting to freak out a little bit about that. Am I going to have to make everything for Fresco now, right? And then real shortly after that, Procreate makes an announcement. It's almost like they saw the announcement. And then Procreate's like, we better do an update or else we're going to lose market share. So then they start hyping their update that was inevitably coming. And then I'm just waiting. They're like, sometime at the end of November, we're going to update Procreate. And I have all these products I'm selling for Procreate, right? And they make a decent amount of my sales. And I'm like, what's going to happen? Is every brush going to break? Is everything I have going to break and the whole business is going to collapse? Oh my gosh, I relied way too much on Procreate. What was I thinking? Of course they're going to update. And then they talk about the brush engine thing, right? And you can make amazing brushes with just this brush engine. Dude, I am pooping my pants, Teela. Did you experience that sense of wanting to poop your pants as well?
That's the professional term.
Yeah, you don't have to answer that question.
Well, Fresco, I didn't get freaked out about Fresco because I was like, they're still requiring people to have a monthly subscription to Fresco. And Procreate is still a la carte. You just buy it once and you get all the updates unlimited. You can't really beat that with a subscription model. So Fresco didn't freak me out. I wasn't going to drop what I was doing because I knew that I had this audience of Procreate users. So I was pretty comfortable just sticking with Procreate and not going down the Fresco path. But yeah, it did concern me a little bit when they were changing their brush engine. But then I thought, there's tons of people that are selling brushes. They have a bunch of default brushes that people love. They're not going to break all past brushes because it wouldn't be smart for them as a company. I started looking at things from their perspective, how would it harm them if these things don't work out? And that gave me a sense of comfort. So even before we knew that everything was going to be fine, I was just kind of optimistically hoping for the best or believing that everything was going to be okay. It was the only way that I could not freak out.
It was on your radar. It's not like you just sit there and think, I'll just take it when it comes. You're anticipating what am I going to have to do and you're making time for it. But it sounds like that was very wise of you to think from their perspective.
Yeah, my biggest thing was just these courses that I need to update now because I was just like, oh man, what workflow that I've been teaching this whole time is going to change now. And being familiar with Photoshop, it's how much closer to Photoshop? Because for the longest time, we waited on layer masks and clipping masks, and everyone was using alpha lock. And it's just there's a better way. And then they switched to that. So it's when now everyone's emailing me asking when they're going to have arced text, being able to type on an arc or within shapes. And I was like, it's just a matter of time, for all of these things. It's one thing at a time. Or layer styles. When are we going to get layer styles in Procreate?
It's going to basically become Photoshop.
Point, Yeah, totally. Once they add layer styles, then I'm going to have to re-record everything again, because so much of the process is working around not having layer styles.
In a weird way, it's job security. If they never updated things, that would actually feel good for a while and then it would become a real problem.
Yeah.
So, because other people would creep in or people would forget about, like, it's like Tom was saying, it's so nice to be able to refresh things. And aside from promoting, which is an amazing part of it, you also get to be like, look, I do stuff for free once you buy it to take care of you because I love you. And
exactly.
Then people are like, Teela's the best.
Yeah, free updates for any student for everything always. So yeah, I do make a point of mentioning that. It's just so time consuming, like, because I'm doing my weekly content and getting re-recordings of courses, and then I'm trying to create new content too. So it's just balancing is really difficult right now.
So Teela, I mentioned I'm currently in the early stages of my course, which is ridiculous because when I talked to you about it months ago, I haven't moved it on very much because things have been so busy. But I'm kind of in a perfect position for, acting in the role of the listener, because anyone listening to this episode hopefully is interested. So I'm in the early stages. I've done the validation. I've got something valuable I hope to talk about. What the hell do I do next? How do I get started? How do I make this course, turn it from what is currently a script on a pages document? How do I turn this into a course?
Like actually recording it and going into that part, or promoting it?
Well, all of it, I guess. I'm just thinking about, like, what's your process?
Oh, the steps. Yeah. So once I decide on a topic that I want to teach, I make all the projects because, like I said, project-based courses are where it's at. So I make all the projects for the course. And while I'm making the projects, I'm making mental notes of what I'm going to say as I'm teaching, things that I want to make sure people are aware of as they go through the course, because maybe this might be confusing to some people. So I'm making mental notes as I go along and create those projects. And I've got everything outlined out. Like, I will say I'm going to have 10 projects for this course. So I'm going to do I'm going to split this project into 3 different videos. So this first video is going to be this, the second one's going to be this, the third one's going to be this. And I know how to split it up after I make the project because I find the natural stopping points within the project.
And so when you say project, is that literally them creating a certain outcome, or is that like more the name you're using for a section of the course?
It's an actual project. Some art that they create along with me. So cool. I show them the final outcome at the very beginning of the first video, and then we start from scratch. And then by the end of the third or however many videos, they have the exact same outcome if they followed all the steps. So I will, I'll make all those projects and then I'll get into recording because now I've got all these mental notes ready. So I record all of the projects and then I'll do my intro and my outro, which I will usually do a slideshow for my intro just to talk to everyone about what they can expect to learn, if there's a hashtag for the class that they can use when they're posting their work online, and how to get in touch with me if they have questions. And then if there's a private Facebook group for it, I'll mention it there and how to join it. And then we'll jump in.
With the filming, I'm guessing you haven't scripted every word.
No, so I do it like totally
outs.
off the cuff.
And you're not like just turning on layers again and you're literally like blank canvas going through a process, and you practice that a few times beforehand and then you just kind of do it and narrate it as you do it, or do you do it silently and then voiceover over? I'm just trying to figure out
some people do the
dynamics.
voiceover, and I've tried to do that and it doesn't work for me. Like, I do much better if I just talk about things as I'm going, because I just say what's on my mind in the moment, and I feel like people are pretty receptive to that. So I don't script anything. My intro videos, if I have a slideshow, then that's pretty much planned out and I just talk through the slides. But once I get into the projects, I just talk off the cuff. I don't think about anything beforehand except for things to be aware of as I'm teaching and walking them through every single step. So that's the whole course is off the cuff.
Do you find you do a lot of editing to cut out, like, say, I go off on tangents a lot. Do you find you have to do that, or do you just keep it pretty?
She looks pretty organized in her head. I don't think she goes off on 10.
Yeah, she's not as scattered as we are, guys.
No.
I don't go too much off on tangents, but I do mess up my words, or I'll notice I'm saying or I say so. Like, those are my 2 bad words, especially so. And I will also say, and then you have to go here, and then here you'll see. So here is another word that I'm noticing that I say a lot. So I will cut out some of that. in the editing process. So that's probably the biggest part of the editing. Or if I miss a step, I'll just say, start over. And then I go back to my part. That way I've got like an audio note as I'm editing, then I need to go back.
We had Peggy Dean on from Pigeon Letters not that long ago, and she's great. And her brand is so like heart and sleeve, just says whatever. I think she was saying she basically does them all in one take. And quite often she will mess up, but she'll just completely leave it in. And she'll be like,
really?
screw it. And like people love her for it. So obviously each to their own. I think of you being very organized and quite meticulous. So it doesn't surprise me that yours are as polished as they are. And I think people love that. But equally, if you're more of a Peggy character where it's like, whatever, you just want to lay it all out on the line and totally. It can be a bit more rough, that just makes you human. So there's no one size fits all.
And I think it's working.
Rock, paper, scissors for it.
Go on then.
Go ahead.
I think it's good. What I learned from doing just my small course is that I was like really overwhelmed with it, and actually doing it like how suits you best. So for me, it was doing really short videos, but maybe doing more of them. And I suppose it's linking in with what if you can talk for 10 minutes. Then that's fine without making too many mistakes or ums and ahs. But for me, I can't do that. I that's too much of a stretch for me. So I just thought, okay, I'm going to do a shorter video, but do them over the long.
Makes more sense.
Yeah, and I think if that's you, then do it in time lapse. And if you don't want to look at the camera, don't look at the camera. Just have the overhead view of what you're doing as well, and just talk like that. So
Ian's first Skillshare was actually a series of thousands of 10-second videos that he strung together. it was like a stop motion thing. It was like a Tim Burton film.
Oh, you're gonna get the bite of Ian's biting remark that comes sometime in every episode.
Right, Ian's right. Yeah, Teela, Ian started dropping just some savage remark once an episode. You never know who's going to be on the receiving end, but I think I can guess this time. All right, so you're recording your course. You are you're doing the voiceover as you do it. How are you filming it? Because you've got more than one camera angle or screen that you're kind of showing at any one time, right?
No, it's just what you see behind me.
Okay.
It's just right down. When I'm doing a Procreate course, I just have the camera. Like I'll be in my pajamas and I'll be teaching.
So you won't actually be on camera?
No, I will for the trailer. I always make sure that I show my face now. I'm not the best with showing my face with things. I always have like anxiety about that.
Me too.
So I do it on the trailer for the course. I always make a trailer for my courses. And then sometimes I will talk in the intro video, but not very often. And I usually, sometimes I'll do the outro too, but the meat of the course, you don't see me at all. You just hear my voice.
Your famous hands.
Yes, you see my hands a lot, but that's about it.
Okay, so you filmed it. Then I guess editing comes next.
Yeah. Yep. Edit all the videos.
How do you take out all those like here and so if you're cutting those, what happens to the? I always think that the jumping of the hard cut is awkward. Or how do you deal with that?
Sometimes it is awkward, and I'll just leave it in because I'm like, it's better for it to just be weird than for me to make it even weirder with a cut. So sometimes I'll leave it in, but most times I think just because I do videos so much now, I naturally, the way that I talk, I'll take breaths in certain places, especially when I feel like I'm starting to mess up a lot. I'll just like take a breath, and then I will, I don't know, pause more, just talk a little slower than I usually do. And then that gives me opportunities to cut if I need to, which aren't as jarring. Yeah.
Do you enjoy editing? Because for me, it's quite like demanding. And I really feel for Marco that does this show. I think this show's okay. My personal podcast, my second podcast, I've started doing a new format where I basically lock myself in this dark room when everyone's gone home, and I'm like, I'm just going to bare my soul into the microphone. But I get so close to the mic that you can hear every breath and every like swallow of saliva. And so Marco's having to bloody edit out my saliva swallow, which poor guy. I mean, so how do you feel about that process? For you, is it like a necessary evil? Some people love editing, others hate it.
I don't mind it. Sometimes I hate it. I've never loved it, but I love watching everything after I have edited it, though, because it's so fulfilling. Especially once I've got zoom in areas, I've got some music added in some places for time lapses. I've done time lapses in it, and once it all comes together, sometimes I'm like, "Wow, I did a really good job on that video," and other times I'm like, "The video's done, thank God." So it's a
Are there any quick tips
for
editing that you can throw out there? You mentioned a few things. How to make your videos more polished than, because a lot of people are probably, nodding along at this point being like, cool, I got a course idea. I might think about using Teachable or a platform like that. I'm going to stick a camera over my iPad. For anyone listening who can't see the video, there's literally like an overhead rig. It's like a microphone and a camera pointing 90 degrees down, hanging off like a kind of tripod frame type thing. So it's like, professional kit, but like fairly basic to the point most people should be able to set it up, and then just a nice surface.
For sure.
But yeah, like in terms of how do I get it more polished than just one shot down for 3 hours of my hand on an iPad or whatever?
Yeah. So I think time lapses are really important for really boring parts that can be sped up if you're only saying something now and then when you're actually drawing or showing something. I think time lapses are really good. Sometimes I'll have really, really long time lapses. And what I started doing was I would chop them and just do a fade and cut that into another part of the same time lapse, just that it happened later on. So you see the beginning part of the time lapse, and then you see the end part of the time lapse instead of the entire time lapse. Smart. That could be like 40 seconds long. So now I can cut it down to like 10 or 15 seconds, add some music, and then we're moving on. So whenever I'm editing, I'm always thinking like, when would I lose attention if it weren't me teaching this? And in my head, I'm always saying like, get to the point already, because so many people, everyone's time is so valuable, and I want to make sure that I'm delivering right away instead of leading people up to something and then it's finally there. Some of my early YouTube videos, people would comment on my video and say, the tutorial actually starts at 3:24,
Oh, no.
And that really bugged me. Like, people would say that often in my old tutorials, and I was like, all right, people just want to get to they don't care what I'm saying at the beginning. I guess I'll save the extra info for courses.
What are your recent videos like then? Just like, sup, let's get started.
I always start out by like showing the pretty end product and saying, this is what we're going to create. And a lot of people have commented that they really appreciate that I'm a tutorial creator that shows what you're going to make before just starting with a blank screen.
That's great, because
makes
otherwise
a huge
people
difference
skip.
to people. Yeah,
I hate that.
Thing.
Like, you've got 8 minutes of like, I don't even understand what's coming together here.
Yeah, and you click on it because of the thumbnail, and then you're like, well, is this actually what I'm going to make, or did they just put that up so I'd click on it?
Yeah.
So I always show the beginning outcome. It's the same thing in the courses. I always say, like, this is what we're going to create together. And then I go right into like, all right, we're going to create a document that's this size. I'm in my document. This is the brush that I'm using. There's a link in the video description. So I just hop to it, and I give them like, I usually use one of my free brushes. So I always rep that. And then I'll give away the color palette for free too for all of my YouTube tutorials, so they can pick that up. And then they have all the tools they need to be able to follow along. And occasionally I'll mention one of my paid brushes, but it's totally optional. They can use whatever brush they want. So that helps with digital product sales, and then also showing courses.
Teela, can I ask you, because we're at, I'm showing for around 45 minutes. As someone that's made so many of these courses, where do you see, like, what do you think the future is? Like, what do you think is going to change, or what do you think is like on the horizon?
As far as being a course creator?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah, so I don't want to be in the hamster wheel feeling like I've always got to create a bunch of new courses every year, because Skillshare super burned me out with that. And then when I switched to self-hosted, it was a lot better because I was doing like 4 or 5 courses a year with Skillshare. And now, like last year, I did 2. And I think the year before that, I only did 1. But I have my flagship course, which is the $397 course. I open and close that twice a year. So that's really great, where it can still be fresh for everyone that is new to my following or just new to my content. They get exposed to it as if it's brand new for them, because it is brand new for them, even though I've been teaching that course for 3 years now. So that helps me to keep things fresh as well. So I think having a flagship course makes it a lot easier.
I'm sorry. I think I worded that poorly. I think I was like more thinking like, what will the future of courses as a general thing be like? Are there things people
like as an industry?
Is there like a big company people should? Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, as an industry, like, are there things to look out for, or places you see like, I don't know, is there going to be like holographic content? You know, like I'm joking about the holographic content.
Well, for now, you're
like,
going to have VR Teela in your living room, being like, "I'm going to show you this."
I mean, look at YouTube. YouTube's not going anywhere. People love video content. So I think as far as online courses, because traditional education is so expensive, and I don't see any end in sight to that, that online courses are a great alternative to people that are looking for that traditional education that may be out of reach. So I don't think online courses are really going anywhere. I think it's pretty reliable, because I don't think YouTube's going anywhere anytime soon. So I'm not going to get paranoid about the future. I'm just going to ride the wave with everybody else, I think. Because if I try and plan for something that's never going to happen, then that's wasted time I could spend creating a course.
Good outlook.
Yep. Nice.
Okay, so we've touched on editing a bit, and a few things that people can do to make it a bit more engaging. And you mentioned music and transitions and that type of thing. Once it's edited up, is it simply a case of, well, in your case, using Teachable, so you upload all the materials, use their system to like organize it and collate it and so on. Once it's up on Teachable, how do you sell the thing? And are there any other steps before selling it and promoting it?
You need to make your sales page for the course. So you want to, that takes a while. Like I usually dedicate a whole week to putting that together. So just the content of it. And then I hand it over to my husband, who's our developer, and he does all the design and layout for it.
Nice.
But I have to create a trailer for it. Mine is more in depth than what a regular person needs to do. Like you can get by with not doing as far as I go with it. But I make sure I show all the projects that you're going to create. I have an FAQ section. I talk about what you're going to learn. I talk about things that maybe you're struggling with that the course will solve. So I go through all of those bullet points on the sales page. If I have testimonials, I put those in, and then we list it for sale. But Teachable has a drag and drop feature for designing your sales page. So even if you don't have a developer, you can totally have a great looking sales page. Because I have a developer, I just take advantage of his talents and we go to the extreme with it, but definitely not necessary. There. Plenty of people sell tons of courses with their drag and drop. So still a great option.
Love it. I mean, yeah, at this point, I want to marry Spencer, to be honest. Incredibly useful, man. With Teachable, and I guess we can get to like how you promote it and stuff in a second, but something that bugs me in terms of using it for our courses, I feel like, isn't there an additional bit of friction for the user? Because as they pay for it, it's like starts asking them to log into Teachable, and then they have to go create a Teachable account. And that kind of interrupts the checkout process. Am I correct in thinking that?
As you check out, you put in all of your information, and then you put in, if you don't already have a login with Teachable, then you have to create one. But it's necessary regardless, because that's how you're going to access the course once you're enrolled. So it has to happen at some point.
Can that all happen at one checkout?
Yeah, it's all part of.
I thought like before people even could pay, it's like blocked. You need to create a Teachable account before you do anything.
You can go through and pay, and then after you put in all of your details. It'll ask you for your username and password, and then you just create one if you don't have one already.
Okay.
It really doesn't
that's not a
interrupt
big
it
issue.
too much.
Yeah.
It hasn't been for us at all, because it's been pretty self-explanatory for people, and then they're in.
What's quite nice about Teachable is that there's so many people doing Teachable, is that when you log on, you've got like, I've got Teela's one there, and I've got John Contino's one there. And, so you've got all your courses that you've ever paid for on Teachable. So it's all in one place. So it's a bit like, I suppose, having it collated. So rather than, okay, what was that course again? I can't remember what it was, and it might be like a few years ago. At least
and where is it?
Yeah, at least you can log in, and there they all are, and it has progress of how you've gone. So, there is advantages of having a established platform, I suppose, rather than
definitely.
I feel like this episode could potentially be sponsored by Teachable, but definitely not Skillshare.
That one's gone out the window, I think.
We've burned our bridges there, I'm afraid, guys. Teela, what kind of margin do you get on Teachable? Like, how does that work? Do they just take a percentage cut as opposed to some ambiguous amount?
So that's another really amazing thing with Teachable compared to some of the other platforms that are out there. We pay, I think it's $950, almost $1,000 a year, or like $100 a month, and that's it. They take, obviously you get the card processing fees come out of each person's payment, but Teachable doesn't take any commission at all on your course sales. I can sell as many courses as I want the entire year, and they don't take a dime off of they just need their $1,000 a year, and that's it.
And is that the same for everyone? Because that probably sounds like quite a lot.
They have different tiers. So I'm to a point where I have a bunch of students and I want different capabilities for my school. So that's why we pay that price. But there are lower tiers. If you want to start out, I think they've got a free tier, and then they've got like, I think it's a $30 tier.
Yeah.
So there are different options, and you can definitely test the waters before you commit to anything. That's just the tier that we use.
If I remember correctly, don't they give you access to your email list? Sorry. If I remember correctly, don't they give you access to your email list? So you like, they're not hiding emails or a database of customers. You can have them on your own list.
Yeah, so I use ConvertKit as our email provider, and they directly connect with Teachable. So whenever someone takes a class, they sign up, they're automatically added to my email list, and then I can immediately send them an email saying, welcome to the course, here's the login information, if you need anything, here's how to reach me, here's the Facebook group links. And then I can send them other emails. Like after they've been enrolled for 10 days, I can send them an email and say, you've probably made it to this part of the course. Here's another fun tip about whatever. So I can stay in constant contact with them once they're enrolled, and they can feel like, I'm there and I'm supporting them throughout their course taking journey.
Love it. So how do you promote it? Once everything's set up, you've got your sales page. How do you get people to buy and hear about this?
Yep. So I do a lot of free content leading up to it. I'll let people know maybe a week in advance that a new course is coming and here's the topic. And I just give them a ton of free content so they can see the types of outcomes that they'll be able to create, or the type of work that they can expect to see in the course. So they get some free brushes. If it's a Procreate course, they get some eye candy on Instagram, or they get a quick tip tutorial on YouTube. So they get a bunch of content a week or two before it opens. They get in a couple of emails the week before, just telling them that it's coming, watch your inbox for this day. And then I always, for my email list, I always give them a deal on the course that isn't available to the general public, because I take care of my people and I want them to know how valuable they are to me, and that if they are part of my email list, I'm always going to take care of them first and foremost, that they're going to be treated really, really well. So they always get some kind of first week discount on the course. And then, from there.
Amazing.
Just keep promoting it.
You also have affiliates helping, especially in the long tail.
I do. Yep.
So for everyone listening, I know marketing can sound a bit big and scary at points, and we've all been there, but it's generally the same stuff over and over, right? It's like content marketing. Put out free content that's going to attract people to follow you, grow an email list, build a network, and have other people share your stuff to widen your distribution. It's just the same stuff. there's nothing like, there's no magic bullet. Like, I know there's a few kind of fancy nuances that you're doing, Teela, and have refined it over time. But even that is part of just putting in the work and learning what works and what doesn't, and getting better over time. So, there's no shortcuts. And I think it's important to say to people that if you have 10 followers and all of them are your friends and family, and you have no email list and no reach, and suddenly you put out a course tomorrow, probably no one's going to buy it, because you need a platform to actually sell on. So it's almost like step one before, if you're thinking about doing a course, it's like, well, try and actually amass community and following. And that does take time and hard work and talent, and putting out really good stuff generally for free to do that, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And YouTube is such a great place to test the waters. You don't even need to make a course right away, get really good at editing or making videos, or seeing what types of topics appeal to people that are watching your content. So there's a lot of really great opportunities to just test the waters before you make that giant time investment on creating a premium course.
On Teachable, you have the choice of making a mini course or a full-blown course. So you could start off with like a free mini course just to get yourself through the process. Because for a lot of people, it's just like, you don't know how it all fits together, and you're like, sales page. So just going through the process, maybe it's just a really tiny thing. Getting that up there, then you think, okay, I've been through it now. I know the process stages. I can then do a bigger course in the second go. And I was just like, actually, I bought a course a couple of weeks ago, based on, they were giving away the free first project, like the first project for free, and it was like this 3D one in Blender. Blender's like a 3D, like Cinema 4D, but free. And by doing that course and realizing, I can actually do this, because I've tried to do 3D in parts and it's not worked, it meant that I then paid for the course. And so that's one, obviously you've got to get people. The only reason I got to this course was because someone tweeted a picture of what they'd done on the course. And I was like, that looks really good. I wonder if I could do that. So, it's those incentives for people to see not only, what you're like at teaching, but whether you can actually do what the course is putting out there to do. So
definitely.
Teela, I know we said a lot of it is like the basics, but just executed very well. But I don't want to gloss over the promotional section for people. So given that you have refined your process, you've really thoroughly educated yourself on how to sell courses super well, are there any little like ninja hacks or extras or tidbits that you can share with the listeners that should really help, put things on steroids?
Oh, man. I think the important thing is to just constantly, to not forget about your course. And I did this at the very beginning. I would create a course and then on to the next course, and promoting that one, and then on to the next one. And now that I've spent all this time on these premium courses, you can't forget about them. So I will go back and do a YouTube tutorial on creating something with watercolor and Procreate, and then mention my course. Or I will do something that's 3D, or I will do just a regular Procreate tutorial and say, if you're new to Procreate, I have a free course for beginners. It's right here. So not forgetting about your past content and making sure to keep mentioning it. And that will bring new users to you. It'll bring new sales to you. And it'll give you more exposure for your work, because once people complete the class, now that there's 10,000 people in my beginners free class, they have a hashtag that they share on Instagram, and they'll tag me, and then their friends see it and ask how they like the course, and then they will sign up, and other people will do promotion for you. It kind of happens all organically because people are so proud of the work that they're creating in the class. So make sure you use a hashtag, make a class hashtag. That's been amazing for me.
And the Facebook group.
In the Facebook group, I have like 3 Facebook groups now that I mentioned, or that I manage. So you can't do one for every single course, because it'll be overwhelming, because even just the 3 I have can be overwhelming. But hashtags are really easy, and just telling people to tag you so you can, and I keep up with all of it too. Whenever people tag me, I always comment, always like their posts, encourage them. And that's been really great to have a sense of community around the course.
And as people know, I'm a huge fan of like marketing done the right way and the human way. And the beauty is that often being a decent human being is the best way to actually earn more money and be a better marketer too. They kind of go
For
hand
sure.
in hand. And so, case in point here, you're being nice by like interacting with people who've taken the course and sharing their work and celebrating and providing extra support beyond what they originally paid for, and a sense of community, and et cetera, et cetera. All of that is you being lovely, and it's real value adding for them. But equally, it ensures that it keeps you front of mind for those people more. It's the opposite of someone taking your course, having zero interaction, and then never returning or never thinking about you again.
Right.
It's going to inherently feel like a good decision that they purchased it, because they're feeling the value really hard, and that continues after that point of purchase. And that's going to encourage more repeat purchases in the future. So, you know what I mean? It's like from both sides, it's a nice thing to do, but it's very business savvy as well.
Yep, for sure.
Do you ever do your courses in person to like promote?
No,
Like,
I don't.
They're
Like workshops, you mean?
yeah, because that's something that you can take pictures or get actual feedback from, or those people go away and say, "Oh, it was a really good course," but she's got one online as well. So I was just wondering whether you did that in terms of, but as you're probably too busy.
Just with time being so limited, I feel like I can reach and help the most amount of people by putting content online rather than workshops.
Has there been any nightmare things that you have come across while doing the courses that may not be avoided, or something like a reality check of doing?
I'm so glad you asked that, mate, because hasn't she made it sound easy, listeners?
Yeah.
We don't like
a lot of
we
work,
don't like
but-
that. We want the grit and the struggle, please.
Oh, okay. I got a quick story. One of my, actually the most popular course that I have on Skillshare right now, I think there's, I don't know, maybe 15,000. I haven't checked it in a while. There's a lot of people in it. My most popular Skillshare class, I recorded the whole thing, and then I went to edit it the night before I had told the Skillshare people that I was going to upload it, because this was back in the day when they were working with select people to put stuff up. So I had to have it up the next day. So I went to edit it, and something went wrong with the video recording. It was passable, but it wasn't good enough for me. I didn't feel comfortable putting it up because I knew that it was content that a lot of people would enjoy, and I wanted it to be as beautiful as I thought it could be.
Yeah.
So this was back in the day when I'm recording with a cell phone, and I didn't even have professional lights. I just had like desk lamps. And now it's like 1 a.m. and I have a decision to make. So I moved my computer into our dining room, where I feel like I can turn on the most amount of lights and then set up all the lamps that we have in our house around it to give proper lighting, because it's watercolor lettering. So I need it to look bright and beautiful, right? So it's 1 a.m.
No, you didn't.
I have a picture of this somewhere.
1 a.m.
This is 1 a.m.
Oh, hell no.
I have a picture of the setup somewhere.
Oh, you got to share that on Instagram and tell the story.
I gotta find
People
it.
would love that.
It's so bad.
Share that picture.
So I re-recorded the entire class at like 2. By the time it was like 2 a.m., I finally had everything all set and ready to go. So redid the whole class, and then I had to edit it all. So I pulled an all-nighter and published it at 8 a.m. that morning, and it ended up being my most popular Skillshare class to date.
Well, thank goodness for that. If it was a
I
flop,
know,
you'd be
I know.
fuming.
Still, that's not a nightmare. That's still out in a positive, though, isn't it?
It was,
Yeah, I know.
but if I hadn't like just said, all right, I have to re-record it. If I just dealt with it being mediocre, I couldn't have lived with myself, I think, about it. And I'm sure it wouldn't have done as well. So that was a tough pill to swallow, and it was awful. I don't recommend it. I was so and then after you publish it, then people start making comments, and I have to post on Instagram. So then I didn't even get to sleep until like 1 p.m, and I was just
but I love that, because for anyone listening, it's like that's what it takes.
Good story.
That's exactly that metaphor of it's like what do they say? It's darkest, something like it's darkest, the darkest hour before the sun rises. Except for it literally happened for you.
Yeah. But it was better quality, but it was still a phone recording. So you can still make a course even if you only have your phone to record. It can totally be done. If you only have like nightstand lamps in your house.
Yeah, all you need is 18 lamps and an iPhone 4.
120 degrees in the room.
Yeah.
It was rough.
Remember audio over video all the time, because there's so many courses where the audio sounds like they're in a fishbowl, and it's really, they teach you really good stuff, but it's so hard to listen to. But you can have really bad visuals, not on purpose, but really bad visuals. But if the audios are right, your brain can deal with that.
It's a great tip, actually, because it's so true.
So get the audio, even if it's just a microphone you plug into your phone to give you a better audio. Invest in audio, and it doesn't have to be too much less than the actual camera costs. So
yeah,
for sure.
I feel like everyone jumps to the fancy camera, but that's such a good point.
Yeah.
Get the microphone first.
Like I used the same camera for 6 years on YouTube until I got enough money from AdSense on YouTube to buy a new one. But people don't really worry, unless you're doing stuff on cameras, they don't really worry. So
right. It's like our brains will adjust to the video not being great and we'll forget, but like the audio thing just never goes away. You just grates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Teela, has there been anything regarding students, like your students, that have caused you stress
Heartache.
or
yes, slag them off if you could. Just really have a good bitch about them.
Has there been
I had one person tell me once that what she bought was definitely not worth the price that I had put on it. But she was the only one that ever said that.
Was that the Procreate free course?
Whatever.
That's pretty good going. There's a lot of like shady internet marketers selling premium courses, and they're like, I got a 10% like refund rate. That's amazing. And it's like, you mean hundreds of people wanted their money back? Like, that must hurt.
Yeah, I definitely had my fair share of refunds, but everybody does. I think one of the big things is at the beginning, it hurt when people asked for a refund because it was like, but I worked so hard and I know that it's good. Why don't you like it? But now I'm just kind of like, all right, they're not my people, or it's too much for them, or they're not to the point where they're ready to take this type of course yet. And a lot of people are really nice when they write and ask for a refund. They're just like, I thought I could do it, but it's just too overwhelming. I'm not where I need to be to take this course. Maybe I'll do it again in the future. I don't fight with anyone. I don't complain. Like if they're in the 30-day refund period, I just say like, I've issued a full refund. I've unenrolled you from the course. You'll see the credit on your statement. So, and that's it. So it's become a lot easier now. Like I don't take offense at all to it anymore.
Teela, what about, I always struggle with this with my business. What if it's past your refund amount of days and the person insists on a refund and they are difficult about it, let's just say? Will you give it? Will you flex and give that? Or are you hard on that date?
I'm hard on it. If you're past the date, you don't get the refund. If you want to take it up with your financial institution, by all means, you can do that. But you had 30 days from the date of purchase. And if I make an exception for you, then I have to make an exception for everybody else. And it wouldn't be fair to those people that's abided by the rules. So I always say, like, it's not fair to other people that got in touch within the 30 days.
Have you ever experienced, like, I always fear I'm going to get backlash because of that. Like, a lot of times we do say we can't, but sometimes we do. Like, we'll be like, oh gosh, okay, they're being nice and they're really, it's so hard. I'm afraid they're going to put social up, everyone be like, this person is the devil.
You're not always going to be able to please everybody. So, you know what? I've said that.
It sucks. I wish you could. It's how I started my business. Literally, I was like, oh, what? You want a refund after like 2 years? I'll drive around your house and like polish your windows and then give it to you by hand. But you can't keep it up.
But you know what? Not everybody offers refunds. So in that regard, like you're already doing something that a lot of people don't offer. So you're doing them a great service by giving them 30 days. I mean, if they wanted to take the whole course and then ask for a refund, they could do that. It's kind of shady, but they could do that. So if you wait beyond the 30 days, then you knew, you were educated at the time of purchase that there's a 30-day refund guarantee.
I feel like taking the whole course is the equivalent of going to a restaurant, cleaning your plate, and then they come over and they're like, how was it? And you're like, terrible. I'd like my money back.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those people exist though.
They do, because my dad was one. Tom, I was going to say, when we would go to restaurants, my dad was so embarrassing. Like, God bless him, he's passed away. He's a good man. But he did this in restaurants, and we still make fun of it because, like, every fifth meal, like 20% of the time, he would, like, finish that plate, and then he'd be like, can I talk to the manager? And he'd be like, this just wasn't cooked suitably, blah, blah, blah. Can I get something free to take home?
Some cutlery.
But he ate it all. He ate it all. It was just...
Oh, man.
What would they say to that, though? They were like,
Some people would say exactly what Teela did, and then he'd get angry. And then I would turn bright red and want to crawl under the table. And
my dad's like very un-British in the way that he does not back down from that stuff. And like, he has no qualms about saying it. And we were out last year for like a nice family lunch. And this poor waitress comes over and is like, oh, how was everything? And he just looks her dead in the eye without blinking and just goes, quite frankly, it was absolutely abysmal. And then there's like an awkward silence and he just doesn't speak and just keeps staring at her. And then it was like, oh man, like you just want to sink in the floor.
Wait, is your dad's name Simon?
No.
Just making sure he wasn't a TV personality.
I think I think people are entitled to refunds, and like if the meal's bad or the course wasn't for them, then I think it's really nice that you offer that. Teela, I guess final question from my side. Have you got like 2 minutes? I know we're going a little bit long here, but this is really good info. How long does the whole process take you?
So I can do a full course in as short as probably 3 or 4 weeks.
Wow. Like everything? Like planning,
everything.
Filming, editing,
yes.
Sales page, launching.
That was before I had a kid though, so it's probably longer now. But I was able to do that before, 3 to 4 weeks.
And is that working like a maniac, like pulling nights and stuff, or like normal hours?
No, it's definitely normal hours. It's probably 8 to 10 hours a day working on it.
Cool.
Yeah, my premium course, the font course, was 6 hours, but there's 2 courses. There's a Mac version and a PC version. They're both 6 hours, so that's 12 hours. That took like 3 months to record, maybe 4 months.
Okay,
it took a while.
Not like insurmountable.
It wasn't crazy.
I guess the thing to note is if that's like 3 months more or less full time for the people doing this as a side hustle in their evenings, that 3-month course would take a year, and the 3-week course could take 3 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super doable. I mean, start with shorter classes though. Don't go to like the extreme 6-hour class until you're ready for that.
Yeah.
You definitely don't want to overwhelm yourself or just feel like you never want to do it again. So even if you do like a 30-minute class and post it on Skillshare just to see what happens, the experience, you're going to learn so much from that.
I love it. Teela, thank you so much for rejoining us today.
Thank you.
I don't know about you guys. I'm pretty sure Dustin's going to be rolling out a course this year by the look of the notes he scribbled throughout the session.
That's awesome.
I know I will be. And,
Yes.
Ian and Lisa, you already do, albeit not self-hosted. So maybe we'll see that from you guys. And I hope a lot of the listeners are feeling inspired to give this a go, because I feel like so many people have something to offer. And remember, you don't have to be a perfect expert. If you're at step 3, you can often teach people at step 0.
Yep.
Definitely.
I agree. That's me.
Hardly. Teela, where's the best place for the listeners to find you? Because everyone needs to go follow Teela. She is an incredible educator and just person in general. So please go check out her stuff. Where's the best place?
My website is every-tuesday.com, and then you can find me on Instagram. My handle is everytuesday.
Amazing. So go follow Teela, go join her incredible newsletter, check out her courses. There's some really amazing stuff in there for creative people like you. I kind of fell over my words there. That was a terrible sign off. Basically, go check out Teela.
Really? That sounded pretty good.
It's been a long day, guys. Teela, thank you so much. We will chat to you soon, no doubt. But we
Thanks,
really
Teela.
appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
That was
thank you.
awesome. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com or find us over on iTunes and now Spotify by searching for The Honest Designers Show. And remember, we're now on social media too, if you search for Honest Designers. If today's episode helped you, then it would mean the world to us if you took just a moment to leave us a quick review over on iTunes, as this is one of the best ways for other designers to discover the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next week right here on The Honest Designers Show.